So as most of you guys out there probably know by now, I thoroughly enjoy the occasional ghost hunting show, right? Ghost Adventures, Paranormal State, Most Haunted, and all the other ones. I do enjoy them for what they are, for their entertainment value. But of course, watching these shows raises the question, to what extent is it actually legit? To what extent is evidence fabricated, footage manipulated, and so on? Or is it all just real, right? Is everything we see in these shows real? We really can't know unless we get a peek behind the scenes. And that's obviously something that these shows don't really want us to have. However, I stumbled across this Reddit thread, which basically encourages ex-employees and ex-staff of these shows to come out and tell their stories. What is their experience of working on these shows? And it is a very interesting read. So in today's video, I want to go through some of these comments from people who allegedly have worked on some of these shows. Some people have to keep the name of the show confidential because obviously they've signed NDAs. Other people come out straightforward and say, yeah, I worked on this specific show and that's my experience. However, before we get into the stories that these people tell, I want to put a disclaimer here, okay? As always, keep in mind, this is just a Reddit thread, okay? This is random Reddit users telling their stories. Obviously, they claim they worked on these shows, but there's no way for me to validate whether these stories are actually true. And I'm not claiming that any of the stories we're about to listen to are the ultimate truth. It might as well just be a random Reddit user who made it up. So as we go through this, please keep in mind to take it all with a pinch of salt. It might be true, it might not be. Make up your own mind. You decide whether you believe these stories or not. But let's get into it. The thread is called "People Who Have Worked on Those Fake Ghost Hunting TV Shows. What goes on behind the scenes?" Sapunek7854 says, "I used to work as a gardener near a foreclosed insane asylum. Bad job, I know, but I'm an immigrant from Mexico, so not much choice. A bunch of a-hole kids were making a TV show about haunting ghosts, and they tried to get me to give them an interview about all the spooky stuff I've seen. I told them I've seen nothing and suggested they F off. Then they gave me $20 and I did give them an interview saying that I've seen a ghost. Last I heard of them was that they were going to spend the night inside, but I don't know what happened to them, although I did hear the footage was released." So that's amazing. That dude is caving in for $20, right? He's like, okay, for $20, I'll say anything you want. That's fine. But just the fact that they're like, dude, you've seen nothing. I mean, again, I don't know what this is. This might have been like a small hobby YouTube project or something, a small channel. We don't know which show they're talking about here. But just the idea that these people are willing to go to that length and to say, look, dude, the guy has seen absolutely nothing. Let's give him a little bit money and make sure he has seen something. Like, that's incredible to me. Because obviously they all claim to search for the truth, right? The connection with the dead, collecting objective evidence of life after death and stuff. And then they pay off a gardener $20 to tell them anything they want. Like, I mean, all right, let's move on. A deleted user says, "I worked on one for a week. This was about 4 years ago. The hunters invited a psychic." Not sure if that was what he called himself, though. "This guy was a big a-hole and thought he was the big S, big ego. Anyway, they were hunting in a haunted house and this guy was doing a walkthrough before taping. He went into the whole routine. Cameras were not rolling. It was just for staging and getting acclimate. During this time, I was at the video village and could hear what was going on." I assume this is basically what they, in Ghost Adventures, for example, call the nerve center, right? So this guy's looking through the cameras, observing this so-called psychic wandering around the building. "He was in an upstairs room and began to feel a cool breeze. He made a big deal about it and insisted we start rolling. We did. And he went on and on about the room temperature drops and that it meant spirits. He started asking the crew if they felt the breeze as well, and they did. Finally, the first AD, who was sick of this guy's BS, told the guy the breeze was coming from an open window in the other room. The psychic threw a fit and stormed out saying they were all amateurs." Dude, I love this so much. "You guys are all amateurs. How dare you pointing out an open window where a cold wind is coming through when I'm feeling cold wind? Which is clearly spirits, okay? You guys have to get better at this job. Come on, man. You're not even trying." I love this. This is fantastic. And Placebo Rochambeau says, "I dated a guy who worked on Paranormal State. He told me that 99% of the spooky sounds and whatnot are added in post." Muffin5492 says, "Ryan Buell had an interesting life since that show ended. Allegedly, he lied about having pancreatic cancer, sold tickets to a show that kept getting indefinitely postponed, got arrested for simple assault against his boyfriend, and faced felony charges for stealing leased property and receiving stolen goods. He's also a recovering drug addict. And this is something I really wasn't aware of. It was pointed out to me in some of my other videos in the comments. But apparently what this comment is claiming seems to have some truth to it. It's also been covered in an ABC article. And the title is Paranormal State Ghost Hunter Ryan Buell Arrested. This is from 2016. Ryan Daniel Buell, 34. Faces 2 felony charges related to theft and stolen property. He's also facing a misdemeanor charge of theft of services. Buell had started a tour called Conversations with the Dead tour. Tickets were sold to shows in cities across the United States and Canada, but shows got postponed and then cancelled, leaving fans with no answer and looking for refunds. Fans were out hundreds of dollars and wanted their money back. Many of them never got a dime back. Now again, this is 2016. I don't know if repayments have happened. In the meantime, I can't tell. Some were able to get refunds by disputing the charge with their credit card company. In 2014, Chip Coffey, a longtime friend of Buell's, was scheduled to be on Conversations with the Dead tour with Buell. He said thousands of dollars were at stake at the time. Coffey said Buell and his team were in charge of all the details for the tour, but nothing was booked despite selling tickets to the show. I know that the last accounting I had with regards to ticket sales for the Conversation with the Dead tour was in excess of $80,000. Coffey said. And the 2014 incident was not the first time Buell cancelled shows. In 2012, he cancelled some shows claiming he was fighting pancreatic cancer. In late 2013, Buell told People magazine that he was close to remission, ready to tour again, and he started selling tickets for 2014 to another tour. Yet, several of those shows never happened. Now, Buell's mother is speaking out publicly. She posted several times on Buell's public Facebook page and the PRS Bureau's page, saying, "Please stop enabling his situation by sending money, buying tickets to events that may never occur, buying merchandise/phone calls you may never get, paying money to watch him live on Twitch, and giving him offers of shelter. I'm pleading with you out of the love for my son, and I'm frightened by what his situation has become." Fans and one-time fans quickly commented on Buell's mother's post, some defending him, while others say Buell has taken money from them too. One fan talks about how Buell was sick, and his mom writes, "He is ill, but not from cancer. His family knows the real story. You all need to stop believing his lies and stop enabling him, please." Jesus Christ, man. So again, all these are just claims. Okay, it is an ABC article, so I would assume that they have done the research and looked into this. But good Lord, man. I mean, we spoke about Ghost Adventures. We spoke about Most Haunted. And like the level of drama that is going on behind the scenes in these shows is just unprecedented. It's remarkable. This seems to be like a red thread that goes through all these shows, that behind the scenes, the amount of drama is really insane. And here we get another comment, kind of reiterating on what the original poster said. This is from UAL8TSC. I don't think you can read that as a name. But he or she says, "I worked on Paranormal State too. I was in charge of watching all the raw footage from the ghost hunts and placing markers in the footage whenever something scary happened, so the real editors knew what to cut to. Usually 4 to 6 hours of footage per camera per hunt from 3 to 4 cameras, which I watched simultaneously on a single screen. I could isolate audio from individual cameras if it looked like something interesting was happening. Never once in hundreds of hours of footage did anything even remotely paranormal happen to those people. The scary moments they cut to aren't outright staged, but they are deceptively edited. They are almost always reacting to one of the other hosts/crew bumping into something in another part of the house. Then the sound editors layer in a more audible sound for the audience." So again, keep in mind, anyone can write a comment like this, but if that is true, oh Lord. I mean, to be honest with you, for someone like me who doesn't really believe in paranormal activity and ghosts as such, that makes a lot of sense to me personally. I can't, again, prove that this person speaks the truth. But if you have a show like this and you need to have some kind of evidence, something has to happen, right? Something has to move. You need EVPs or something. You can't do a whole episode of a show like that and come out with empty hands. So what this person says kind of makes sense to me, but again, take it with a grain of salt. That guy from Ohio says, "That Ghost Hunters show did an episode in a large old building where I work. I'd rather not say the name. I laughed out loud throughout the episode at the idiocy. For example, they were taping a freight elevator. That damn thing is in need of repair and has been for years. When it did a little jolt just before taking off, the hosts insisted it was supernatural in origin. Nah. That's what it does every time it moves." And it continued from there. Every single thing they said proved ghosts, had a perfectly simple explanation. The company I worked for loved the publicity even though it was complete nonsense. And we regularly keep hearing stories like this of people saying, well, I used to work in this building and everything these people show on camera that allegedly happened to them is perfectly explainable if you're familiar with the building, if you know what's going on. But again, reading through these comments, it feels like it's more about not leaving empty-handed, right? The objective is not finding objective evidence of life after death or ghosts. It is all about something has to happen. We're doing entertainment here. And as we heard from the other guy who watched like hundreds of hours of footage and nothing ever happens, that gives you a rough idea. Most of the time, those ghosts are just not coming out to play. So now you have to come up with your own little explanations of what might be considered paranormal and ghost activity. Johan McDougall says, I did a tour in the Portland Shanghai tunnels. Our host told us that one ghost show put dirt on the floor and squeezed against the brick wall of a completely open finished basement to give the illusion of a narrow, decrepit tunnel. I mean, you gotta give it those guys, man. They're getting creative out there, okay? They're really coming up with those ideas. And Mortovox says, yep, I got the same story in my tour as well. So seemingly loads of creativity involved here. Just not a lot of paranormal activity. Start in early says, I hope this fits here. I used to work for a company that had a few different properties/buildings. One of the properties did not get much business, so it was usually just manned by a receptionist. The usual receptionist was this older, eccentric gal who would also smoke a lot of weed on the job, probably due to the boredom and isolation of being there. On numerous occasions, she would tell them about how she was 100% convinced a ghost lived in the building. She even named him Matt or something. Anyway, she got the bright idea to call up a ghost hunter show and invite them up to film, which they jumped at. Mind you, she did not ask management for permission. Everything was agreed to, but on the date they were showing up, for whatever reason, she flaked out and stood them up. Apparently the ghost hunter people showed up and were banging on the doors for a couple of hours in the dark with no response. Fast forward a few weeks when I'm talking to the GM, when he gets handed a letter. It's a bill for $1,600 from some production company. Half of me wanted to get out of the office ASAP, but half wanted to stay for the lulz. The look on his face when he learned what happened was freaking priceless. The crew was ghosted by the nutty receptionist. Oh boy, I mean, not exactly like a story that debunks ghost hunting, but still funny. Chasing Cert says, I used to be on a show, not a popular one, and only a few episodes out there, but it was a team of 3, an empath, an undecided, and myself, who was the skeptic. Well, my job was to debunk things on the show that the other 2, or the occasional medium we had on, were claiming was paranormal. Every time I would debunk something, it would never make it on the air. The empath, which was the owner/producer, didn't want to be proven wrong, I guess. For example, that meter they used to measure electromagnetic force where the lights go from yellow to red, ours would go off randomly. Well, it wasn't random, because every time he power cycled a handheld camera or his tablet, it would go off. I proved it was the burst of electricity or an electric field, I don't know, from turning their devices on. No, never let that see the light of day, because it's a very common ghost hunting tool and you can't prove how it really works, or else an existing part of an investigation goes away forever. By the way, on that note, I did a video where I break down all these tools, these typical tools that ghost hunters use, the technology, and I go through them one by one and explain them. I'll link that video on the top of the description so you can go check it out when you're done here. It's very interesting because it goes very much in line with what this guy says. There are certain devices that are just very receptive to, for example, walkie-talkies or mobile phones or iPads or something. When you switch them on, these devices get triggered. So that feels very much in line with what I've researched on the subject. I love spooky stuff and the paranormal is really entertaining to me, but it sucked that they left out the skepticism because he thought it wouldn't draw in people. I'm a fan of the original Ghost Hunters, where they would continuously prove that ghosts or haunting didn't exist and present their findings to the homeowners to provide them relief. Even the main guy never admitted to hauntings. That was their thing. Once they got super popular, they turned into just a normal ghost hunting show. I want a show or be part of one that does that, to go in, find something and prove it wrong, but are still open to the idea and have fun with it. Because at that point, if you do find something you genuinely can't explain, it has more weight because you're known to debunk nearly everything. I miss ghost hunting. It was a lot of fun for me. Understandable. And to be honest, that reminds me that I want to mention my favorite ghost hunting show that does always present a skeptical angle to it. Okay, that it feels like they're not cutting that out. And that is Buzzfeed Unsolved, right? with Ryan and Shane. I enjoy that show, obviously, because it is making a thing of skepticism. Shane gets his moments to explain what he thinks is going on, and then the audience can decide for themselves whether they think this is paranormal activity or not, but they don't shy back from presenting an alternative version beyond it just being ghosts. It's gotta be ghosts. And if you look at the success of that show, I think people like that, like he speaks about his producer, he just didn't want that in there because he thought that level of skepticism doesn't sell the show. Looks like he's wrong. Okay, because obviously BuzzFeed Unsolved is massively successful, and I think a lot of people appreciate the honesty of that show. Some people just want to be fooled, they want to believe, they just want to see some things happening and then believe that it's ghosts. But in my personal opinion, I think the majority of the audience appreciate the skeptical angle as well as the paranormal angle, and a healthy mix of the two. But share your thoughts down in the comments on that. I don't know where you sit on that. Laser McBlazer says, I might be too late for this to be seen, but I actually did a full season of one of these shows. I'm a production sound mixer, meaning I record all of the sound on set. For a show like this, I'm wearing a recorder/mixer combo in a big bag attached to a harness. I have wireless lav mics on all the casts, which are the little, mostly black mics they are wearing. And I'm running around with a boom mic as well. That's the big one you're holding above the crew. I did a less popular but still legit show where we traveled around the country for about 6 months, almost non-stop. 3 days at a location, travel, 3 days at the location, travel, maybe with a full day off prepared in there somewhere. It was a brutal schedule, but a super fun experience with a great crew that I'm still friends with to this day. We definitely became a little family in the way I haven't with many other crews in my career. There were about 12 of us in total between the camera team, me, the producers and PAs, plus a cast of I think 5 people, one of which is a very legit person in the paranormal world. I went into the whole thing not believing in ghosts at all, and I left believing in ghosts slightly more, surprisingly, despite some of the BS our crew pulled. On our 3rd or 4th location shoot, I realized there was a person on our crew who I had no idea what their actual job was, considering I rarely saw him on shoot days and only travel days and at meals. I asked one of the camera crew who had done a previous season, and he told me he was the magic man. Apparently the dude's job was to make things happen while we were filming and doing walkthroughs of buildings. Anything from making light bulbs explode to creating creepy sounds to causing a bunch of stuff to fall off a table. I'm not gonna lie, he was very good at his job because I've never seen him around and some very creepy stuff would be happening without warning. And he never told anyone what he was planning for each location. I can't say the one thing that really creeped me out on the show without revealing what show it was, but I genuinely can't believe one of the things what happened wasn't real. It involved digging up something that there was almost no way he could have buried without making it look like it had been recently buried. There was full undisturbed grass grown over the spot they dug into. To this day, it still creeps me out to think about it. Overall, the only other time I felt scared or freaked out was once in the basement of a house in upstate New York. We were towards the end of the run and I was totally burned out and I just wanted to go home to LA, see my girlfriend and my dog. Ghosts are fake. This show is fake. Everyone in the crew was annoyed with everyone else. The content was stupid, etc. It was probably about minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit near Ithaca, completely pitch black. And I felt someone come right in my face centimeters away and start breathing for like 30 seconds. The thing is, the equipment I wear is big and heavy and sticks out almost a foot off my stomach when I'm wearing it, so there's no way anyone could have gotten that close. The thing was, I felt like I couldn't do anything about it. I reached out and no one was there. But the warm breath and presence was still there. It freaked me out and still does, thinking about it to this day. It was definitely a human presence and lined up with the story we were shooting. So we get stories like that quite regularly, and I've heard stories like that from friends as well. And I'm not here to say that anything anyone ever tells you, experiences they may have had in their life, is automatically discredited and not real. Personally, I think a lot of it may be happening in our own brain, okay, which is a very, very powerful tool to create things that are not necessarily there, especially like he describes when you're exhausted and tired. But who knows, okay? I'm not here to say what this guy experienced wasn't real. What interests me is that he said what he describes was kind of in keeping with the story they were filming and the story of that place. So there might be a grain of truth in that. Who knows? Fallen Angel 152 says, I never worked on a show, but I've done paranormal investigations for years. Done many famous places in my country, met several people in the industry, mediums, etc. Many were quite bad, a couple were awful, clearly throwing things from their pocket when the lights were off, etc. Ugh. I'm fully of the opinion that these shows are fake, and here's the dirty secret. Paranormal investigation is very boring. 99% of the time you just sit in a dark room trying to hear stuff. I think most TV stations realize that after a few episodes and pressurize the crew into faking stuff, or at least coming up with nebulous evidence that can't be disputed on TV. Things like smells and feelings, etc. Doing more psychological experience on site is a lot more interesting. No, I agree with this person, like I said before. I think she, Fallen Angel, assuming it's a woman, but she's making a valid point here, saying probably a lot of these shows are being pressurized by the TV stations in presenting more evidence, whatever it takes. Because obviously it's about entertainment, and I'm sure they can see if stuff happens and goes down in the episode, views are going up. And that's what they ultimately want. They want higher ratings, they want to sell more ads. So more evidence means higher ratings, means more ads. Let's present more evidence. And obviously the TV stations are the employers of most of these hosts and so on. So they do have the possibility to put more pressure on the hosts, on the cast of the show, because otherwise they can threaten that was the last season. Ciolia says, I dated a girl once who had an ex-boyfriend whose ex-con stepfather was a guest on a ghost hunter show. It was an episode about a haunted/cursed car in Southie, Massachusetts, is that? At the end of the episode, they made it seem like they had destroyed the car in a trash compactor, but in reality, the car was never destroyed and it remains in the guy's yard to this day. So for this reason, I imagine there's a lot of fake situations created in these shows. If I recall, they paid him $10,000 for his story and time. The guy turned out to have various personality disorders and believed his car talked to him, prevented him from ever finding work. But honestly, I think he just made it up as an excuse not to work, doubled down, and somehow he ended up on this show. Oh my God. He's like, oh my God, my car is preventing me. It's talking to me and it's preventing me from working. But let's be honest, for $10,000, I would also claim that my car is haunted, okay? This is a shout out to all ghost hunting shows. If you want to do a show, an episode about my car, which is haunted and prevents me from working, give me a call, okay? Drop me an email. We can work on this. God, my car is haunted. Now that I read this, it's out of control, so give me a call, guys. One of those shows filmed at an old house where I worked. I never saw the episode, but my boss reported their findings to us and we all laughed. Things like hearing noises in a room that was designed to amplify noises across the room, a whispering ceiling, I believe there's one at Monticello, detecting motion where there's almost certainly a vermin infestation. Not only were most of the things easily explained, many of them were by design from the original prankster/owner. OK Percentage 7297 says, throwaway account because I'm still in the field, and if not with this particular show, I don't want trouble. I worked for a show in the Discovery family of networks. It wasn't a ghost or supernatural show, but the host had previously had one such show. He didn't believe a freaking word of it then, and didn't when I worked for him, despite part of the gist of the show being that he believed this stuff and was going to prove it. Not much value to add here, but I don't think these people believe what they are selling you. Most of them are also massive a-holes and borderline creeps too. There's a reason I left. I hear I've been replaced with a much younger woman. I don't know if that means what I'm inferring, but it wouldn't surprise me. The host I worked for liked groupies. Oh, yeah, okay. He's not getting into any specific show here, but that's not good. Shane and Ryan are without sin, and I will hear no slander. That's right. That's right. Buzzfeed, Supernatural, Unsolved, whatever it's called. Best show out there. Go watch that. Love that show. I mean, now they're doing their own thing. I think it's called The Watcher, right? And they had a little bit of a scandal recently. But, you know, in my opinion, The Watcher is not as good as Buzzfeed Unsolved was at the time. But, you know, leave your thoughts on that down in the comment section below. I'm happy to discuss Shane and Ryan with you guys. Love those guys, to be honest. I was a production assistant on Ghost Adventures once, says Josh Flowers. It was the most real reality show I've ever worked on. They actually didn't script the people I saw interviewed on camera, and they actually went into the house they said they were going into. This person says that as if it's like a unique special thing. It's like none of the other groups go into the actual houses that they claim they go into, but Ghost Adventures did. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's funny to me. Other shows faked everything. I couldn't believe it. I knew they faked things in editing, but I didn't realize how much the production did until I saw it myself. Take after take of scripted lines in fake locations. Oof. Well, it's refreshing to hear some positive words on Ghost Adventures here, if this person speaks the truth and actually was a production assistant on the show. And other people confirm that that's exactly what they heard as well. Zak knows what he's doing in terms of production, keeping the show interesting and entertaining, blah, blah, blah. Again, keep in mind, these comments like this particular comment is like 3 years ago. In my personal opinion, even in the last 3 years, Ghost Adventures has fallen a little bit from grace just in terms of the quality of the content, and it all got a little bit too dramatic for myself, so maybe this is still referring to what happened in the past. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the show, but there you go. Ghost Adventures definitely has a strong fan base. Happier Than I Was says, I lived and worked in a mansion. 2 ghost hunter YouTubers had paid to shoot a video inside. We all still had to work. So when they put the video out and we were like, oh, do you hear that? Footsteps. We were all like, yeah, because we were all walking about. We were in the building. And that's something I wondered as well. There were episodes in BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural as well where suddenly you hear footsteps and then, you know, Ryan would claim nobody else was in the building, but it wasn't as clear. You just can't know. Was really nobody in the building? If you hear footsteps above you, it might really just be another person walking around. Unless you have a camera in that room where the footsteps are happening and they tell you the truth and show the footage of that camera in that moment where you hear the footsteps. There are loads of variables and question marks there that just really make me question to what extent it is theater and you know, they're trying to sell us a haunting. They use the same ghosts for every show and don't even pay them. The ghosts are not even on the payroll. Outrageous. Unbelievable. Morilitari says, I hope I said that name right, The Dead Files did an episode in my family's bar. I was interviewed for it because weird stuff had gone down there while I was there alone. Things like doors slamming with no drafts, things just falling off tables where they had just set a fine for weeks. My 45-minute interview plus B-roll was trimmed to 1 sentence, and they really played up a lot of the things that were said to make it as dramatic as possible, even with a link to the episode on Daily Motion. By the way, I will link this whole thread because there's so much more. I can't read all the comments. I'll link it in the description underneath, okay? So you can go there, read up on it yourself. It's a great read. There are so many stories here if you're into that kind of stuff. I recommend you going wander through this Reddit thread yourself. Anti-Wittgenstein says, my wife worked as a personal assistant to the lead and event coordinator for the last year of one of the well-known shows. She has hours of hilarious stories, from the very touching to the completely upsetting. She's extremely skeptical, but she had 1 or 2 experiences in that time that pushed her into the agnostic direction. What's behind the scenes? Massive egos. These people are told they are special because they have a gift and then get put on TV, which is tantamount to Olympia for this day and age, even if you are relegated to the extended cable package. Egocentrism, more than anything, killed the show. Drugs. There's nothing wrong enjoying yourself, but not when your habit means you don't pay your employees. Oof. Ouch. Unprofessionalism, continuing from above. Never being on time, bailing on commitments, behavior bordering on nor was outright fraud. Surprisingly earnest about the paranormal. My wife never got a sense of any of them were trying to dupe people. The hunters were high-strung folks with interesting backgrounds who would jump at anything and assume it's paranormal. She said they were like that on and off camera. And then someone replies and says, was it Ghost Adventures? I think it's Zak Bagans. And then she says, no, it wasn't. Okay, it was not Ghost Adventures. So we don't know what show it was, but it wasn't that one. Potato Chips and Ketchup says, not my story, but an ex-boyfriend's. They were filming an episode of a ghost hunting show many years ago and needed a Native American medicine man for a scene to bless a house. So they dressed him up in native garb and gave him an eagle feather to wave around and some sage. He's Taiwanese. They what? As someone with a Native American grandfather, that's certainly not okay. No, it's not, dude. I'm laughing, but that's pretty messed up. I'm not gonna lie. Oh my god, I can't with this blatant racism. Wow, I'm shocked. I'm reading your all's comments. Well, look, I think we have to understand that some of these shows, not all, okay? I'm not saying all of these shows are out there to just fake stuff and create some kind of things that are not there, but some of these shows, they will stop from nothing, okay? They want to stay on the air. They want to get renewed for a new season. So we add drama. So we add theater. We add all these things, anything that keeps the show alive. And to an extent, that's understandable, right? They're making a lot of money with it. That's their livelihood. But I guess the problem that I have with it is that they're claiming it to be real, that they claim to search for authentic evidence, and that they're often riffing off stories that are actually true and affect real people who have died, okay? And not only that, there are shows where they interview people who clearly have mental health challenges, and then they talk about how they're possessed and all that, and they're almost encouraging that misperception of their own condition. Again, I can't diagnose them here remotely from sitting in my little office, but there are a lot of moments in these shows when I'm watching them where I'm like, okay, this is not okay. All right, they're doing stuff that goes a little bit too far. So it's a thin line to walk, and there are a lot of moments that don't sit right with me as well. Reddit admins F off says, worked as an intern on one of the shows some years ago. One day they made me go out get some food for everybody. I forgot to get Steve's. When he asked me, hey, where's my panini? I went, oh, look over there. And I pointed behind him. When he looked, I was like, the damn ghost took it. I was fired. Come on, guys, have some sense of humor. That's funny. At least he's trying. Good Lord. Was he really fired? Did he make that up? Steve has no sense of humor. That's it. Jesus. About 43 Clone says, I worked on one and we took a true story and changed it to make it scarier. Then we hired actors to pretend to be the real people because the real people didn't actually want to be interviewed. Then we hired other actors to be the recreation actors. There wasn't a damn thing on that show that wasn't faked, manipulated, or altered. Well, to be honest with you, this thread is going on forever. There are so many people sharing their stories, obviously because, often these are big production crews. It's then edited in-house and so a lot of people are involved in creating these shows, and that's how these kinds of stories come out. Again, I just want to come back to my disclaimer in the beginning. There is a possibility that some of these people just make it up, right? Just for Reddit karma or whatever it is. But I think reading through all these comments, it almost feels like there's a red thread going through all of them. Let's do one more and then we'll call it a day. Okay, guys, please leave your thoughts on all of these stories down in the comment section below. And maybe you worked on some of these shows yourself. I'd be curious to hear your experience in a comment under this video as well. So the last one comes from a user that has been deleted by now. And he says, I can answer this as I worked on Most Haunted live in 2004. Amongst the production crew, there's a knowledge that everything that is going on is an absolute load of bollocks, but we didn't discuss it in front of any of the higher-ups. During commercial breaks, there was loads of talks amongst the presenters about needing to S up the audience. Oh boy. The orbs floating on the pond at the stately home we were recording at were clearly dragonflies. One of my jobs was to set up a table for a seance, and I was told by a producer that there was a webcam set up in the room, and I told under no circumstances was I to act or walk like a ghost. Yvette fielding is safe as houses. The catering van was as hot. I'm happy to answer questions. Were you wearing white trainers though? Because I remember watching it and the seance table rocked, but you could see white trainers kick it. LMAO. No, not me. I've been to the ancient Ram Inn where Most Haunted have filmed in the past. Absolute bollocks. Supposedly one of the most haunted buildings in Europe. We were there for the entire night. The most we heard were scuffles in the doorway and the crow hung by fishing wire moving in the draft. The pre-ghost hunt snacks were nice though. We stood in the circle for about 25 minutes calling out for anything to happen. People said they were being pushed slightly, but I put it out to weak knees after being stood fit for so long. The long 3-hour drive back was more exhilarating. Oh boy. So there you have it, guys. I'm sorry if I'm destroying your dreams and beliefs in ghost hunting shows with a video like this. Again, take it all with a grain of salt. People make stuff up. That is commonly known. But there seems to be a continuous red thread going through all of these stories. And to be honest, in the context of having a TV show and trying to stay on the air and getting renewed for a new season, a lot of this stuff makes sense to me. Personally, again, I'm not claiming that any of this is the ultimate truth. I'm just reading out a Reddit thread. But I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, okay? Leave your thoughts on any of this down in the comment section below. Do you think that a lot of these people are making it up? Do you think that most of these shows are actually authentic and real? What are your thoughts? Leave it down in the comments. I would be very curious to read them. And I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown of these stories of people who allegedly worked on these ghost hunting shows. If you enjoyed it, then please don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel for more. You can also join our Discord, okay, which is a lovely community of like-minded people who some believe in paranormal stuff. We talk a lot about UFOs since I do UFO content, talk about video games. It's a beautiful community. The link to that is down in the description as well. Join the Discord, smash like, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. I'm out. Bye.